Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is Super Star Soldier for the Turbografx 16, released by Hudson Soft in 1990, and I'm playing this game on a CoreGrafx Mini. This is one of the Turbografx 16 system's mini shooters. Overall, this particular system is great for people who love shooters because there are tons of them in the system. There must be at least a dozen or more than a dozen on this particular mini console. This is the sequel to Star Soldier, which existed on the NES as well, I believe. I think I have that one somewhere. I'll give it a try eventually, because honestly this one is pretty good. Now you play this shoot 'em up in a ship, you're scrolling upwards, and it gets pretty hectic at times, although, let's be honest, that's the point of a game like this. In that regard, it certainly passes the test. Like a bunch of other shooters in this system, I think your avatar feels pretty large on screen. Generally they seem a little larger on this system to me, but it certainly works, and it's a pretty fun game. There are a total of 8 stages here, and there are actually a few different modes that you can select and play. You can play a standard game, which is you playing as long as you have lives, or you can play a 2-minute game or a 5-minute game. The time games are you just racing to get as many points as you can against the clock. It's nice to have the variation. I can't say I play it a lot, but it's nice to have. I think with games like this, you kinda need to play it enough to test all the different offensive weapons and start to memorize what's going on the level, because you have to figure out what weapons you personally play best with, and specifically what weapons you need to use on the levels and potentially when. For me, it took me a few lives initially before I even realized what the upgrade pods actually were. Once I could identify them, things definitely got better. I think the controls here are pretty simple. First you have the select button, and the select button is actually used, and that's kind of interesting. It shifts your speed. You have 3 different speeds. It doesn't feel that drastic in the early levels, I think, but it is definitely enough for you to force yourself to adjust. There's really a lot happening with this one. Honestly, to add extra speed to it, it's a little too much for me. I honestly haven't been using it very much at all. You have 2 fire buttons. Button number 2 is your offensive weapon, and button number 1 is really just for rotating the particular a particular upgrade you can get. It's called the Starbuck Defense System. It's these little defense pods you can sort of get as you play, and they sort of fly around your ship. That's all they are, is they sort of move around and they absorb enemy fire. You get to pick them up first. You start out with a basic offensive laser, which is kind of red, and honestly I think it looks more like missiles. But as you're playing, if you pick up a red floating crystal, you will upgrade this weapon. If you get hit, the weapon gets downgraded 1 step. The truth is you should keep picking up the same color upgrades to upgrade whatever weapon you're using. All weapons are better when they're upgraded, as you would imagine. You're going to do more damage, you might fire in more directions or bigger angles, and that becomes very useful. It's important to be able to shoot enemies without having to be directly in front of them, because that's generally where they shoot. It's a good time to mention that the upgrade crystals you pick up along the way, they don't actually look like crystals. They're these floating colored pods. Like I said, the first few games I played, I was dodging these things. I had no idea what they were. Okay, blue crystals. When you get blue crystals, they'll convert you to a ring laser. It's this blue beam, and it's these little blue circles, really. And it's a wider shot than the regular fire. If you keep collecting blue crystals to upgrade this one, that ring laser gets bigger and bigger, and it gets a much wider direction. Overall, I think it's probably my favorite offense of the bunch, definitely on the first level. You can really wipe out a lot of stuff if you've got it upgraded. The yellow crystals gets you this sort of fire offense, and according to the manual, it's the most powerful weapon in the game. But in the first 4 stages when I use it, this one doesn't seem to be very good for me. It doesn't appear very much, and it's not so great when it's not upgraded. I see the blue and red ones a lot. Green is a spread energy beam, and this one's interesting too, because it's like a constant energy spread, and when you upgrade it, it gets a much longer reach. Still, I generally stick to the blue upgrade. That's what I feel comfortable with. I would guess blue or green, really. You also need to pay attention to all the chaos as it sort of happens on screen, and the crystals as they appear. When you get upgrades of the same color, it upgrades your weapons, but if you grab a different color, you're going to switch to the new weapon. It's pretty frustrating to lose a weapon that you're doing well with, just to switch over to something that you haven't upgraded yet. It's kind of something you need to get used to. You're gonna have to pay attention. Also, my controllers have turbo settings on them. I don't know if this is the same with the regular Turbografx 16 controllers. I think it is. These are what came with my mini console. The truth is, if you have auto fire, or turbo settings, you have to turn them off because they're going to affect what you can do. You can naturally have auto fire when you're playing, but basically at first I was avoiding the green crystals because it wasn't effective. It was very short range. It was because I had on auto fire, and it was like I was continually releasing the trigger. Once you turn off auto fire and you hold the trigger, that green offense, that range extended off the screen. It totally changed the usefulness, so just pay attention if you're using auto fire. You can also pick up homing missiles as you go. They work automatically. It's just a nice point of offense, really. It's something extra you grab eventually. If you get the maximum for any one crystal path and another one appears on screen and you grab it, it becomes a bomb and it basically destroys all the enemies on screen. I guess the one point I'd want to make sure new players are aware of with this one here is that your best offense, no matter what weapon you have, is with whatever weapon you've upgraded. If you watch all the playthroughs online, you're going to see people dodging upgrades when they get to a certain level. You have to be familiar with what all these different weapons do, feel out where your comfort level is, what you need to use, and you got to be really cautious to not accidentally switch over to other weapons. It's hard to avoid it sometimes, but it will take you from a successful level to failing. There are a total of 8 levels with this game. The first 6 stages have a boss. The 7th stage doesn't have a boss, but the 7th leads you into the 8th, and the 8th level is a gauntlet, and you'll have to defeat all the original 6 bosses, plus a 7th boss that closes out the game. The colors are bright in this one. They're vibrant, like you'd expect from the Turbografx 16, and they use a really good color palette. Pretty much like the other shooters I've seen on the Turbografx. There are no odd colors here, there are no strange color hues. It's all just bright and solid, and it looks great. You get a really good musical score too. It cranks along as you fly. It appears to be different for every level, but I can't say it's something that I honestly pay too much attention to as I'm playing, because you're really busy trying to stay alive. If it wasn't there, I'm sure you'd notice. But as it is now, it fits, it's appropriate for this one for sure. I think Super Star Soldier is a pretty solid shooter overall. It isn't so difficult at the very beginning, and it doesn't force me to want to put it down. Some of the other shooters are really tough from the get-go. This one, it seems accessible. And of course, being able to use save states on the CoreGrafx Mini make it much better. It's great all around, and the weapons are nice. The problem here is, the deeper you get into the game, if you don't have those upgraded weapons, it becomes super difficult. I got through the first level, I started the 2nd stage, and then I died. As soon as my ship came out, I was back to the very original weapon, and I got destroyed pretty quickly. It seems that in the first level, they are throwing upgrades to you non-stop. But as you get later in the stages, they appear to be giving you less and less opportunities to upgrade. So if you get a really good system upgraded early on, you want to try to drag that one out for as long as you can. Well, that's all I have today for Super Star Soldier for the Turbografx 16, or the CoreGrafx or PC Engine, however you're playing this. Thanks for stopping by to give this one a look, and I'll catch you on another video.